Hello everyone, I'm Liana and I am joined by one of my good friends, Paul, and we're going to be hanging out today drawing and hanging out chatting. We were just talking about Paul's process on pages for Outcast and how super detailed they are.
I was saying that it's gotten complicated over the years is what
Yeah.
it was. I started doing digital stuff a few years ago, whatever, just to add like shadows and things like that, stuff like almost like a color guide in a way, just kind of like do kind of thing like that. But then soon it became like, well, let me knock this out in the background, and then let me add this, and this foreground should be darker, and this and that, and then next thing you know, it's gotten way too complicated. And I should really just at this point color it myself. Like if Betty wasn't so great at doing at picking, her palettes and all that stuff, and all the other stuff that she does, and all the great coloring, it's like I might as well, just adding days to my,
This now makes sense though that you colored all of the Seeds of Eden completely. So
right, yeah. Again, that's what, yeah. So that's why since I've been doing that so much, I'm like I should just color these things myself, and I started doing it on Instagram, just like posting things and just coloring them kind of myself real quick, and that was fun, So when the Seeds of Eden thing, I was like, I want to color this. I want to try this. It was perfect because it was a short thing,
yeah, yeah.
So it was like perfect. If I'm really horrible at it, I'll be out of it, in and out in like 10, 12, I forget how many pages it was.
Yeah, you're like, it's okay, it's just a short thing. It'll be fine. You had tweeted the other day, and I was like, I'm 100% bringing this up on stream, mostly because Mike was like, what? I don't believe you. Was that you were like, as a previous apprentice, you are fired. And I was like, best tweet ever. Also, excuse me, come again? And so, can you tell us the story of how you were on The Apprentice? What?
I could, yeah. It was. I don't even remember how many years ago now. It's. Apprentice is not even on the air anymore, right? So
Yeah.
whatever season that it was, Joan Rivers and Melissa Rivers and Khloe Kardashian. I want to say. I know I was with the women's team, so I know mostly the people that were on the women's team. I think Tom Green was on the other side though. And then T-Boz, and I'm trying to remember who else was there. There was a golf chick lady. I don't mean to, diminish her in any way by calling her a golf chick, but I just don't know anything about golf.
Golf athlete, if you will.
Golf athlete, I should say.
Sure.
That'd be less sexist sounding. No, and anyway, but they were all there and stuff, and then we came in. Well, I guess they contacted somebody through Image. I don't know if it was Stevenson or something like that, whatever it was.
Huh.
Because they were doing a challenge that you had to create a superhero. Like the teams had to create a superhero for like Zappos. That
the shoe company?
Yeah, I think they do shoes mostly.
Oh, wow.
So they need to create a superhero for them. Well, so they said we need like local artists. They film in New York, and then we need like local artists, comic book artists, what this and that, what else. And then, do you know anybody? So then he went and looked at local artists, and then contacted a few people, and then so I think Ivan Brandon is actually the one who emailed me, or like they contacted someone through him, and then he said, "Oh, I know, like Paul." It's like right there, and
Wonderful.
And then so it ended up being me and Ivan on one team, because they needed like the artist and then somebody else to like, I don't know, to explain comic book. I don't even know why. Honestly, I don't know why Ivan was there. No, okay, no, but they just need like two people to represent comic books, So that, and on the other side it was Mike Oming and Joe Kelly, I believe, was on the other side.
Gosh.
And then we just kind of like paired off with the teams like that, and it was kind of like just a whole day of just sitting in this conference room with all these people, whatever, and then had the challenge of this, and then it was actually pretty awesome because we went in and we met with the executive people or the producer people, whatever, and this and that, and they were like, oh, don't make sure you don't wear this, make sure you blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. I wear stripes or some, stuff that doesn't look like it was okay. So we met. It was an all-day conference room kind of thing. We just went in, and then they came in, and then we had to design a superhero, and then they said this and that, we want this and that. Just have to listen to them. I was just kind of like the monkey, like they would, they would just tell me what to draw, and I would draw it. My favorite was that they were like, oh, was the girl team? So of course they need a big girl, like we want like a Wonder Woman with a thing and whatever, and I think they set her costume a little bit and this and that, whatever, and whatever. So in my head, I'm like Wonder Woman. I think of like Adam Hughes, Wonder Woman, and stuff, So I'm like, okay, cool. So I drew this, really
perfect buff woman.
Kind of like like woman, this and that, and they came, and then first thing they come over, like Joan Rivers. So I was like, oh, she's fat, like she's too, make her thinner, and this and that, and I was like, oh, okay, like maybe I went a little too much with the muscles, like I kind of like I think of like a big Amazon kind of thing, So like okay, whatever, a little too much, my fault, whatever, So I kind of thinned her out and everything like that. And then they come over, and then like T-Boz comes over, and I was like, "Oh, she's still too big. Like, make her thinner, make her thinner." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "All right, whatever." I kind of phrased a little thinner, this, that, And I forgot who else comes over. Like, what? Like, did you make her thin already? Because she's too. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, Hollywood thin. I
Oh
was like, oh.
no.
So I had to make her super skinny. Like, you know, I remember doing it. Like, all right, you want to? Because I was like, my whole time, like, skinny. Like, this is to me skinny. Like, you
Yeah.
know. And they're like, oh, you're all Hollywood people. You want Hollywood skinny, which is like 90
Oh
pounds.
my God.
I had to do that. So it was fun though. It was a fun experience. They actually had contacted me too, like the next season or something, to come back. Not just me or
Oh,
whatever.
really?
Yeah, but I was like, that's okay. I don't need to do that. It was weird. It was like, you know, they didn't really promote me or Ivan that much. You know, like they put a couple of my things up, like pieces of artwork, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think they really promoted it or anything that said much. Like with.
I'm gonna try and find an episode of this.
Yeah, in all honesty, I haven't seen it, but.
You're like, thank God.
Yeah, it's out there somewhere. I said I forget what season it is but whatever one that has Joan Rivers on, who was actually super nice. So that was the other best part about doing that. Actually, hanging around her a little bit. She was really actually great. She gave me
awesome.
gave me a little bracelet because she has like that she had that jewelry line or whatever.
All
and
right.
Like, yeah, girlfriend. I was like, yeah, wife. Here you go, give us that. You know? Like, right.
That's so random. What?
Yeah, it was, but she was super awesome, and so you know, and everyone else kind of like was. I don't know, it was just weird, like because I was just kind of like working, and they were kind of doing their thing, and I wasn't supposed to like really interact with them because I'm not supposed to help them. You know what I mean? Like I'm supposed to just kind of be.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I couldn't really like do a lot. So it was kind of a weird thing of like I couldn't really interact a lot with them. I wasn't supposed to, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just hanging around them, watching them kind of do, you know.
That's
it was interesting.
wild.
Yeah.
Somebody asked for you, Paul, what's your favorite comic book movie ever, and why is it the Spider-Verse?
Well, I mean, Spider-Verse is amazing. Actually, it could be. If it wasn't for the fact that I have like nostalgia for other things, I think that would be like if I was younger and you know, dealing with all the movies just now and not like from when I was a kid and have all that attachments emotionally to like times in my life. Spider-Verse could be like the best because that movie is amazing. Just on many levels.
So good. Did you feel like it did New York justice?
Actually, it did. I thought it did really well with that too. It captured like a lot of the energy of it and the
because you drew
things and different like cultures on top of cultures and like you know what like it did.
Yeah. You drew a Spider-Man book once, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Okay.
Yeah, I did a few issues of Spider-Man. One with Mark Waid. A few issues with Mark Waid. Some of them were part of this storyline called The Gauntlet, which was like the Return to the Sinister Six kind of. So like each arc was like a different character. Mine was Electro.
Ooh.
And I did another one. Fred Valenti did a couple issues I did with him, which was like the Vulture, like a new Vulture thing, which I didn't design, but it was, you know, that. So, yeah, it was, and that was fun. That was one of those, like, I love New York so much that I would say I spent too much time.
Oh, you can tell in those pages. I almost bought one, but somebody took it from under me.
I think it's stuff that's not just obvious pics or whatever either. Like
yeah.
Like all the Avengers stuff and all that stuff like that is great, but for me, it's like as a movie, they don't hold up as well as like within the universe of it.
Sure.
You know, that's why I like things that like known better.
I think a lot of comics fans probably agree with you, or like think that it's nice supplemental, you know, media that they can ingest still and not have to like, you know, find 80 million back issues of stuff constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still get asked all the time about like, you know, where do I start with this thing? And I'm like, I don't know, just this. And I try to just mention different things like, and it's never like the ongoing, you know, like, oh yeah, just pick up whatever, Spider-Man, Batman, or this and that, whatever. You know, it's like, no, I always go back, like get Batman Year One or get the, you know, All-Star Superman that Morrison and Quietly did, or, you know, like things like that are just like these standalone things that you can pick up and do that. Cause I'm like, the ongoing, I never know where to start either, like to tell people where to start.
I feel the
if
same
it wasn't for like my years and years of reading comic books, sometimes I would like not even know what the hell was going on even with these new stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of like gray areas of knowledge, just mostly in terms of all of that, like runs that were mostly in, you know, when comics were being produced heavily before now in like the 90s and 2000s, where there was a lot of content and a lot of different types of like events overlayering each other.
Yeah.
Very difficult for me to keep track of. So, favorite comic movie, sorry.
There'd be a difference between what I think is the best comic movie and my favorite one.
You can do both.
Because I love Tim Burton's Batman, like 89 Batman, the first one.
Yes.
But I have like not even but it's a great movie. I don't care what anybody says because I like those better than the Chris Nolan stuff. But also I think I have like one of the first movies I was like 10 or whatever I was, and so it was the first movie I saw like multiple times in the theater and so like that. Like I wanted to go back and see it, and like and stuff, and it blew me away because at that time too, when I was younger, like it's not like now where there's I sound like an old man now, but there's now there's like a million different comic book things. There's all these movies. Like,
Yeah.
when I was younger, there was like nothing. Like at best you'd maybe get a little cartoon or something like that. So like, Batman the Animated Series came out. It was like that blew me away. It was like, oh man, it's Batman, like doing like
Yeah.
all like that. And now I mean even things like Darkwing Duck, which I think are coming back actually. And like whatever I could find, I had like some kind of superhero element though, And there was like some TV shows that hardly were a superhero. Hardly did any. There was like no special effects. There's no super low budget. But I was like, this is amazing because it was like a superhero. There's a thing called Mantis, I believe. But anything I could latch on to when Batman that movie came out.
Yeah.
And it was Batman and like awesome and everything. That Michael Keaton, who I love.
Oh yeah, Mantis on Fox.
And stuff like Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom and all that.
That's
when I was a kid.
awesome.
So it just blew me away. I was like, I want to see it again. And at that time, it was like I had to go back to the theater, and I was then wait. I don't know how long for it to come out on VHS. I'm old.
And then you have to get it from Blockbuster because you can't like afford it, right? You have to go rent it for sure. Yeah.
See the comments.
That.
I'm not good at like picking favorites of things. Like I just like enjoying things. I mean, I don't like to make lists. I was never one to like make all those like my top 5, whatever, this and that. You
have to like make your desert island picks. What else are you gonna do when somebody forces you to pick up? Go to a desert island with 5 VHS tapes. I got another question for you from the chat if you want to take another one. Okay. Paul, did you notice a difference having someone who is normally an artist as a writer? Oh, is he talking about me? Okay. Did it seem to make a difference in the script? So, no pressure. Answer a question about my script versus Robert's.
No, I can answer it also broadly too, like not just necessarily that one. It usually is a difference though, like because there's so many times when I have script like Robert actually can draw a little bit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You've seen him in conventions; he'll do like a really quick kind of zombie face or something like that sometimes.
That's fun.
Yeah, so he has like some things. So I feel like he does think visually a lot. And so that some of the stuff he does is like really works that way. Because the thing I found is like some writers who can't draw at all or don't ever really. They think so kind of about the words and stuff like that, like how words create the picture rather than thinking of the actual visual. There's a lot of things in a novel, for instance, that like they work in a novel, you could say, and you could without, but when you have to actually draw them, it's like, well, that doesn't actually make sense for a house. Like the bathroom can't be right next to the porch, and then whatever, and then when you go over here, the living room has, like there's like logistical things that happen, that in a novel doesn't matter. He walks out the bathroom and he goes on the porch, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, well, we already established that the living room's there, and then the bathroom would be all the way up on the second floor with a thing, and whatever. Yeah. So there's things like that I think when you're an artist, you kind of like automatically have these elements in your head that kind of help you when you're writing, kind of guide the writing in that way, and it makes it easier for me because I don't have to because that's where I had to rack my brain most of the time. It's just figuring out like, okay, well, this doesn't make any sense visually, like it's a cool scene or whatever it is, but then and Robert does do that sometimes too. So my favorite thing he did, which is not necessarily that, but I still like to complain about, is once the show started going, he would confuse the house I drew in the comic with the house that was on the show. So he would say things like, the porch. I'm like, there is no porch on the house I drew. That's the one that I
So you're like, is it the front yard?
So a couple times I literally put them in the front yard or something like that, whatever, instead, or another, I had to like switch, so it was like things like that he would do sometimes because once the show starts going, so that was that's one reason I didn't really watch the whole thing.
You don't want to confuse yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah, that exactly. It was like I watched like the first couple episodes, and obviously I've seen like little pieces of everything, and like when they were making it and this and that. I was on set and all kinds of stuff like that. But
I didn't know you went on set.
But I didn't want to actually watch it because it was like I don't want it to influence what I'm doing because like what I was doing, like they were adapting kind of what I was doing.
Okay, yeah.
Weird, like, snake eating its own tail thing. If I start watching the show and then it starts influencing what I'm doing, it would just be weird.
Yeah.
So I figured I'll just finish the book and then I'll actually sit down and watch it.
That's gonna be wild.
that doesn't actually influence what I'm doing. Like I said, I know exactly what
Yeah.
happened too, because I've seen the Daily, I've seen other stuff, so whatever. So it's not like I don't know anything about it, but I just didn't want to get too into it. Because even going on the set, seeing the house that they had for Kyle, like oh, God damn it, I should have made a porch. You know,
Where
like
did they film it?
they filmed it in South Carolina, right on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina. It's a place called Rock Hill. It's in South Carolina, but it's like right at the border. Like it was like not far from Charlotte. Like I went to hang out with Jason and like that too. And
Mm-hmm.
while I was on set, like it was right there, and I drove over. It was like literally like I don't even know, like
That's so
20 minutes
close. Yeah.
to get order to so it was like right there.
I think I know the answer to this, but what is your favorite convention?
Well, my favorite in the States is, which is, I don't know, sounds privileged to say, but my favorite in the States is Heroes Con by far. It's just the most chill, all about artists, all about comic books. Everybody there is great, and Charlotte is really a great town to, you know. And it's funny because they always had like some good food stuff, but even over the years they've like even built up a little more.
They have a whole
Stuff
food
like,
truck like
yeah,
festival thing now, right?
yeah. Yeah, Sheldon, like the owner of the shop that throws the whole convention and everything too, and then does all that stuff. He has like that party, and so and then he had the food truck and so on too, which I had like the most amazing but terrible for you food ever.
Yes. Oh my God.
Which
It's
was
literally like quasi having a heart attack midway through the con.
the first year they did that. There was a truck. They brought it back too, but for some reason they don't do like the full sandwich anymore.
Uh-huh.
Probably because people had heart attacks. But it was they had an option. You could have a mac and cheese sandwich, mac and cheese grilled cheese, or like mac and
Jesus.
cheese, or a meatloaf, or a pulled pork, and they were all like a grilled cheese type thing, like sandwich,
So
Or
literally
which
like
I
a pound of butter each serve.
or what I couldn't resist doing, a combo of a mac and cheese, meatloaf, pulled pork on one giant thing. And I was like, well, I gotta try it. I mean,
How
and
many like how many layers? That's
it was pretty big. I only ate half of it. Like I split it.
Do you layer it with
Whatever.
the other bread in between? Or is it like all three just
No,
smashed
it was
together?
I remember correctly. It was just the breads on top, bottom.
Oh, okay.
It was like kind of bread is, but a little thicker, so it has a nice whatever, and then everything was kind of there. And it was as ridiculous as it is. It was really delicious. I want to get big and cool and like throw like parties for my book.
Throw an Outcast party.
Well, we have those sometimes, but
Really?
that's Robert doing like his Hollywoody stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of it.
Oh,
I think
okay.
more from the TV show people and stuff like that too. Like, 'cause that's how they just Hollywood gets down like that all the time. They always do like these, like we're having a dinner party thing or whatever. We're having a
Oh, that's
cocktail
fun.
thing themed with actually I stole a pillow from one.
Oh, I gotta see this. Also, Jaslyn's saying, Paul, you could literally do that now, aka parties for Outcast. What? That is
Like,
wild.
it's like well, if you ever see the show, like there's like a cartoon drawing that
Yeah.
or like whatever that Kyle does when he's young or something like that. Anyway, so I stole it though because I was like, screw that.
You stole it? I don't think it counts as stealing if you're the
Walked
co-creator.
out to. I didn't even like try to hide it too much. Like, screw that. Like, it's my boy. What are you gonna do? Okay.
Oh my God.
Be here if it wasn't for me. That's what I got.
Yeah.
Everyone was drinking too, so I was like, I won't even notice.
Yeah. I think you're my hero. What's the weirdest piece of Outcast merch that you own other than that pillow?
I actually have. It's funny because I actually have a couple pillows too. What is the weirdest thing? I mean, I have like a couple of poster things, which are not weird. Pillows they did. I have this thing which Skybound did, which was pretty cool. They actually framed it. So they did this Outcast cards in like the old. Cause Robert was like, oh, I love those old like cards with the Topps cards, or whatever.
Yeah.
So they kind of thing, and then they made like these other like kind of variant,
That's so
fake
cool.
They made like a little frame thing, so that's kind of cool. You see this little shine on it, but
Yeah. That's really awesome. Do they actually have like cards inside them?
the Outcast one does. I don't know if the other ones do, because I think those are they just made the wrapper or whatever just to make it look cool. But
Yeah.
the Outcast one does have cards in it.
One of my best friends is asking, and no pressure, how was it working with Liana?
It was actually great. I enjoyed doing it. Like, I mean, we talked about it a little beforehand and doing something that was like sci-fi and then like that 70s stuff, like having fun with that, like that kind of like whole vibe. Like when you sent me the story originally, that's the first thing that came to mind too, was like just the kind of story it was, just reminding me of like, a lot of those things. Like, you ever seen that movie that called something? Is it Output? No, with Sean Connery. That's
I don't think I knew, like, I was thinking 2001 Space Odyssey and Alien. Like, those were the only two that were, like, blaring.
Yeah, well, that was it. That I was gonna do a more obscure one, but then also like Alien, the first Alien, is right too in 2001 Space. Yeah, that kind of stuff like that. So like when that's what I was picturing. So I was trying to do some of that with it, which was a lot of fun to kind of design it a little bit in that with that in mind and stuff. And then even the main character girl, when she I was trying to do like a Ripley riff, which again the first kind of version of her, or the first attempt at her was like maybe a little too Ripley.
Like, it was perfect because Z automatically was like, LOL, is this Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh shit.
So, yeah, it broke that. Like, like even with the design of the ship and so like inside of or the station, so that when you go inside some of the stuff, I was looking at all that. I mean, it has like well, maybe people want to read it. I don't know. Am I supposed to talk about it?
I think we can talk about it mostly without spoilers.
But there's like a garden thing in there, so that was like in itself, that was his own thing a little more because but like the leading up to that and some other elements of that too. I was like really looking at like aliens and like that and other stuff and that kind of aesthetic and try to bring that to it, which was a lot of fun.
I think you made it killer, especially. I mean, obviously my favorite color palette of all time.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, and then what I like to do too is just bring a little pop of color here and there and do stuff like that too. So
every scene fucking perfect. So good. It was so cool, like as a writer or whatever, like getting pages come in for the first time, and I was like, "Is this what it feels like?" Oh my god, freaking out. Oh, it's like Christmas.
It's funny because I feel like most writers in comic books are like such fans of comic books. I feel a lot of them like get into it just because they want to see it. I think like, oh, one day I'll be able to tell, whoever Frank Whiteley to just I could tell him whatever I want and he'll draw it. Like that's the reason they get into it almost. Like they just want to see this person,
Yeah.
Like, I want to see Sean Phillips just draw this. So you know what? I'll write it so he can draw it. Like that's literally like the motivation I feel like sometimes.
I mean, that's definitely like if somebody gave me an artist, I'd be like, okay, I'd want to do this kind of story or this kind of story.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about writing yourself?
Well, I do. Like I have stuff I've written for myself that I like not professionally. It's not out there really. But as far as like writing for other people, I just don't have that in my head as of now. Like I want to write stuff for myself, and because I want to do books that are like all me.
Yeah.
Where it's like I write, draw, color, do everything. It's just kind of like me, like a Paul Pope kind of thing or something. Like where it's just like all him and
Yeah, exactly.
I want to do that, but beyond like that, like I don't know, like writing for other people might be weird. But I don't know if it's like a good friend or something like that. Like I can see doing that because we can collaborate and we can do some fun stuff and and it could be kind of like what we're talking about. Like oh I want to see you do this. I've never seen you do this. Like or whatever. Like this kind of thing. Where so we write that.
It's kind of like a fun challenge to like break your friends out of comfort zones or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Brett asks, when you think of 90s comics, what are some of the first titles that come to your mind?
I mean, I grew up when Image exploded, so a lot of that comes to mind. Spawn, Wildcats, and all that stuff, like the original lineup, Savage Dragon. But before that, I love Daredevil even in the 90s too. Like, I love Ann Nocenti, John Romita Jr. Daredevil is like my favorite thing ever. Like everyone always, the Frank Miller stuff is obviously great, and Born Again and all that stuff like that. But I had to like go back for that because like when I got into it, it was like Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. just kicking ass on that. And I still look back on that stuff. It's like my favorite John Romita Jr. stuff like that. His stuff on Daredevil and then his stuff on Iron Man, like the Armor Wars and stuff like that too. Like he did. That's like my favorite John Romita Jr. stuff. I still to this day. I look back on it just for like inspiration and try to figure out how he did that.
Do you ever like work back or like try to deconstruct? Like I know we've talked about this a little bit. Like deconstruct some of your favorite books and like how they storytell.
Yeah, all the time. I'm always like looking back and stuff. Like some of my favorite stuff is stuff that can go back to it and just kind of keep figuring things out and seeing how they did it and figure out like, oh, I get why he did this decision and that decision. It's weird because I think when I was younger or earlier in my career, I thought that I would find like a solution in that, if that makes sense. Like so, like
100%, yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that's how you do that. But in reality, it's not one-to-one that way.
Right.
But just figuring out how they did it and why they did it kind of helps my brain work in that way. Like opens to my brain that to be able to do a similar thing,
Exactly.
So I think that's important to go back and constantly look at that stuff and figure it out and try to like pick their brain. Because the best part about it too is that like after meeting a bunch of these people, I've been lucky enough to like actually meet these people in the industry and like become friends with a couple of them and this and that.
Yeah.
You realize like, oh, they weren't thinking about it that hard. They're just awesome,
Yeah.
and they just drew it. That was like their instinct. But then still trying to figure out like what the thought process is behind it, even if they don't know
Yeah.
or they didn't know at the time or whatever. It's still like I think trains your brain to kind of start thinking that way, and then
You like have a data collection of masters stuff just like burned into your mind.
I mean, exactly. It's like I probably have like all these things and like these ideas to use these different techniques or different things that are just kind of there, and then when they pop up in a story, I'm like, oh, be perfect here is that thing that this guy did that one time, whatever, the cool, and do something like that. Do like
Yeah.
you know, like one of my favorite things I always point to is the artist Tom Coker, and he's a friend of mine. We don't talk as much now, but still. I consider a good friend of mine, and he was doing this book, and I think it was literally a time crunch thing because I like to ask people questions like, "Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that?" I like to bug them about that.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be an establishing shot of a police station, and he just drew like the lamp in the front,
Ah!
like but then they have very specific lamps, so that's all he drew was like a little panel of that, and then moved on. And like that's so genius. He didn't have to draw anything. He just drew a little lamp, and like everybody gets it. Like, oh, police station, got it. You know what I mean? Like that's so genius. I always think about like so that's like one of the things I would have in the back of my head. Like not to do that same exact thing obviously, but think about like how can I do this in like a simple, very iconic way.
Yeah.
Without having to draw a million, things like that. Because a lot of comic books is also like the deadlines too, so you have to figure out these shortcuts.
So what you're saying is you're literally like, okay, how do I make this 10 times easier for me, and how do I learn it from the masters?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because like under pressure or like quarantine or whatever, but I've had like 2 to 3 like big ass ideas where I'm like, I want to do it so badly, but I'm like, okay, well, I already have True Call and I already have this original graphic novel that I wanted to do, and like I wanted Vita to kind of help me with and like maybe write or co-write. And then I also want to do there's like this kids roller skating gang book that I want to do with like a friend, and like there's just so many different ideas. No time to do them.
I think my biggest regret or my biggest like pain at the end of my life is gonna be on my deathbed, going like, oh, but I still do whatever, like whatever 80 comic books I had in my head.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like trying to live life. Like, oh, I never went to,
I never went to like Pompeii, but I didn't make this book.
Again.
Yeah.
Now it's like a comic book that I couldn't. It was such a great idea.
Oh my god. If that's not the largest, most well-known thought of any comics creator, I don't know what is. Something that I've learned a lot from a couple friends that are probably watching right now is learning how to say no, and like the importance of saying no for your mental health and like physical health at this point. I think there was a point where I had asked you like how do you say no like to projects or whatever, and you were like, I don't know, I literally have done everything. Like you're like, up until now I've said yes to everything.
I am terrible at it, but there are things I've said no to. But for the most part, in the beginning, I did say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think is what I was saying that. But I mean, some of it is that when you're just starting out, you're trying to establish. There's so much to learn. Like the best way to learn is, right? So the more you have to do, the more chances you have to learn how to do comic books, which is super complicated and really hard to do well.
Trial and error.
So the more trials you have, the more
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
The more you can learn, the more you can figure out and take those errors and make them into something that resembles a career, which is what I've done.
That resembles a career. Oh my gosh.
Does that look like Yoda?
Yes! Yes! Did you put a speech bubble? Are you going to put the seagulls in there?
Yeah, I put don't fall asleep.
Yes!
Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep.
That video is the best.
Paul has a YouTube channel that you can watch, and I put it in the comments below if anyone wants to watch it. He does really cool process videos, especially for like Outcast covers and things like that. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much for joining, and come back and definitely subscribe to Paul's Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch, which he will be maybe doing soon. So,
yes.
bye.
Wait, I'm trying to get the Twitch thing going, so we'll see.
say goodbye to all these rad humans.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, bye.